Hello and welcome to the Snap UK podcast. We are back. I am glad that intro made everybody chuckle. Turns out, if you take 4 or 5 weeks off, loads of things happen. So we thought we'd better do a catch-up rather than just talk amongst ourselves. So, things to cover for today. Salary cap hell, franchise taggies, and all the trades and free agency signings. There's quite a lot to get through, so we're going to dive straight in. I have with me today Jim, who's in charge of all the technical things, Gary, who isn't, and John, who is frantically pushing the buttons and hoping to contribute in a vocal manner. We don't have Paul because he has a job where it means he can't be bothered to turn up. Hi, Paul. Right, that's enough of that nonsense because I didn't write an intro for this week because I didn't realise I was doing it. So, we should start with the salary cap.
It's gone down.
COVID apparently means the NFL didn't make any money last year, which I think is a lie. But anyway, it's come down. It didn't come down as much as I thought. It's $182.5 million. Now, I don't know what it was originally projected to be. It was closer to 200 million, I believe.
Was it 190, 192 the year before? Something like
that? It was 198.2 in 2020.
Yeah. So I think it was closer to the 200 million it was projected to be. But so down a little, but not as bad as it could have been, considering the rest of the world is burning. And I believe next year scheduled to go up because they get their new television deal, which is doubled in cost to the television companies. So it's a 1-year blip, but it apparently is causing carnage, and teams are not signing their own players and forcing people to take all sorts of deals. Now, I'm going to say in a minute when we start going through this, it appears to be the horse crap because there's money being thrown around all over the shop. But
I think what you're getting is a really polarised salary, almost similar to like the MLS, where you've got like 4 or 5 players earning $20 million to $40 million a year, and the rest earning like $800,000 to $1.5 million. And I get they might be the stars, but it would be interesting how the locker room dynamics are with that, because it's definitely, you look at the teams with the well-paid quarterbacks, they're in a lot of pain and they're having to be really creative, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair comment. I think
it's the blue chippers are still going to get paid, aren't they? Your blue chippers are going to get paid. Yeah, the people who get nothing are still going to get nothing. It's people who sort of are maybe around 30 years old looking for a new deal have just unfortunately probably had by luck have a wrong year to be looking for that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I looked at it in quite a crude way. I took the $180 million and took $40 million off the going rate for a quality quarterback, and that left you $140 million divided by 52 was $3.5 million roughly. So then if you start paying some linemen, defensive ends, before you know it, that starts becoming, like I say, 1.8 million per person. So I don't understand why they don't just salary cap the positions. And I get that means you wouldn't have as much ability to build teams. But who needs $40 million, plus sponsorship a year? Like, I get it. I know Jim's putting his hand up because he loves a strip bar. But, who needs that much money?
Then can I put my hand up as well?
It comes down to the American way, where it's all about making your dollar. And that's what it's all about. It's all about who can have the biggest contract. If you salary cap the positions, you just know all the quarterbacks are going to say, I want, and then whatever the salary cap is. So it removes all the flexibility if you do that, which is why I think they don't.
But if the salary banding for quarterbacks went from 15 or even, say 5 million to 25 million for a quarterback.
Yeah. A bit enough.
I feel okay about that.
Yeah, I agree in principle with what you're saying. I actually think probably what they need to do is have a separate cap for the quarterback room. So you can have 3 quarterbacks all earning 10 million, or 2, one of whom is earning 40 and one of whom is earning 5 or whatever.
But that's like the MLS, isn't it? With their star player thing.
Designated player.
And then have everybody else under a separate cap. I think that may be a way it goes in the future, but also it does mean that, and we're going to get into it, but when players choose to restructure their deals, it helps the teams out and you get a bit more flexibility back. So, I mean, we've seen teams do it before, keep restructuring their quarterbacks. It does work. In the end, it's all just magical numbers anyway, because very few people ever see all of the contract that we get to quote. So it seems a bit made up, if I'm honest. But we shall see the effect. Basically, like John said, you're going to get some middle of the road veterans who don't get picked up this year because it's just a bad year. But they'll find work as players get injured.
They'll get picked up. It's just a case of they'll have very different deals to what they probably thought they would have maybe this time last year. So we saw it last year. Cam Newton's a great example. Like he was coming off an injured year. No one really knew what was going to happen with him. He picked up a 1-year deal, and now he's got a pretty decent extension. Although actually the extension up to 14 million is being quoted, and that's a bit of jiggery pokery because that's based on bonuses. But you're going to see a lot of players who are going to pick up really short-term contracts, get paid a fairly decent wage. Like I'm sure some players I saw Rodney Harrison, the Raiders centre, got released today. He's a quality player. He's going to get another job somewhere. Yeah. Now, whether he'll get paid as much as some of the other centres that have been paid in free agency, probably not because he's a bit older, but he'll get a decent wage. To your point, Gary, I don't necessarily agree with having kind of set wages per position, because I think that then it kind of almost it takes away the ability to build the team how you want to build a team. I think it puts more emphasis on the draft coming up this year in terms of if you need players, you've got to hit on your first, second, and third round draft picks to be able to actually compete. I'd be interested to see if any team goes on the lines of saying instead of paying you X amount of money, we're going to pay you a percentage of the salary cap. And if that goes up, your salary is going to go up. If it goes down, your salary is going to go down. For me, that's an interesting way of doing it, because the issue with quarterbacks at the moment is if they get paid now. And Aaron Rodgers is a good example of this a few years back, where he was getting paid, $25 million a year when he signed a 6-year contract. That was a lot of money. But 5 years later, it wasn't. But if you switch that to percentage, it's always going to be increasing or decreasing in line with what the market's saying. So, yeah, I think there's going to be creative accountancy. Any of these free agents that are signed over the last couple of days, which we're going to discuss, probably aren't going to see all that money. They're probably not going to see all that contract length. Most of them are probably get released after 2 years. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think it's an interesting little blip for the NFL, because everyone's used to the salary cap going up. Now we've got to change, about face and make some drastic changes.
Yeah, of course. I think before we dive into that, can we just touch on the franchise taggees? Basically, players that are being forced in some certain aspects to stay with teams where they may not be happy, and other players who probably are quite happy just to get tagged and wait it out and see what deals will be on the table next year. Who would you like to start with?
Should start with one who's probably not going to sign his franchise tender. That's Bears wide receiver Allen Robinson, who's come out and said, "I'm not signing that franchise tender."
And you can't blame him. Because currently the Bears don't have a quarterback, and he's been playing there, struggling mightily to put up the stats that a player of his talent should be doing with ease. I'd be amazed if he can't find work elsewhere at a reasonable cost. So I think it's good for him to say, no, I want out. But it would change if all of a sudden Deshaun Watson was playing there, or, Russell Wilson or something.
Or Russell Wilson.
It's all about the quarterback conundrum for Allen Robinson, I think.
It's either that or it's a tag and trade type deal. So, the Bears can't reasonably expect Allen Robinson to either sign a long-term contract in Chicago or play under the franchise tag, because he's come out and said he's not going to. So they should be shopping him, and they should be looking for a first-round draft pick from someone who's a wide receiver needy team. Patriots would be an ideal spot for him.
I don't think you'll get first round for him, if I'm honest. But there's no harm in asking.
But you look at the stats he's put up with, at best, mediocre quarterbacks. Well, he's played with Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky for most of his career.
It's not great, is it?
No.
I'm not sure coming to play with Cam is perhaps his first port of call that he's after, but I see your point. Elsewhere, Brandon Scherf at football team. I think that's a great bit of work for the football team, actually. He's one of the best O-linemen in the league.
He is. It's what, his second tag now? So his salary goes up to $18 million, which for a guard is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, that's tackle money, not guard money. So it's a lot of money for the football team. I almost said the wrong word. The football team to pay. I did say the wrong word there.
Do you think that they are hoping to work a deal even though they've already tagged him? Do you think this is just an extension to make sure he doesn't go elsewhere while they're talking?
I think this is an extension because he's not a young man. He's 29 years old, so he's coming probably towards, I guess, good offensive linemen can go into the mid-30s. But realistically, I think when you take into account and the football team, bloody hell, have a habit of tagging players and not paying them a long-term deal, because the fact is that he's now looking at this saying, right, well, I'm going to get paid $18 million guaranteed this year. That's his starting point for negotiations going into a long-term deal. So one way or another, they need to figure out a way to pay him a lot of money over a decent period of time. I think this is an extension. I think he'll be on the free agent list next year.
Fair enough. Good win at the Tampa Bay Bucks. One of the least surprising tag recipients, I felt. It was always going to happen. I don't think they want to break up the band in Tampa, and I think this is a way of keeping him around for another year.
Yeah, effectively, because they might not, you might not get Brown back, but still Evans and Goodwin still going to be cracking, aren't they?
Well,
Brilliant.
I think the Bucks as well. At some point, as great as Brady is, and as healthy as he is, I said that through gritted teeth, and Jim nearly laughed at me. But he will eventually fall off a cliff, won't he? And that could happen this year. It could happen next year. You just don't know. So I think the Bucks are staying in win now, aren't they?
Yeah.
You've got to give yourself a chance for the next 1, 2, 3 years, because then you could be into a real problem again.
Imagine if it's 3 years, your hair would have fallen out with stress and disappointment.
It would. My hair's beautiful, man. Like, it's got no chance.
A couple more franchise taggies that are worth mentioning. Cam Robinson at the Jags. I think that's, again, I feel it's a sensible move. He's one of their best players, but whether or not he'll be happy with it, I'm not sure.
I think it's a sensible move considering they're about to bring in a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
So keep a veteran presence on your offensive line, and draft another tackle if you need to.
Yeah. Who else have we got? Marcus May at the New York Jets. Again, worthwhile keeping around. I'm not sure he's worth the sort of money that they're talking about him getting at that position.
Yeah, I mean, the salary for safeties on the franchise tag isn't actually too bad. Like, I know 10 million sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about cornerbacks get paid upwards, well, top quality cornerbacks can be upwards of $20 million a year. $10 million a year for Marcus May, I think, is reasonable.
Okay. Any others that you want to tick off the list? There are only 2 or 3 others, mostly not notable.
Well, Justin Simmons is always worth because he's class, but I think that's why.
Did he get tagged by the Broncos in the end, did he?
He did, yeah. Second year in a row.
Okay.
I think that was basically. I think the new GM's job is to keep Justin Simmons and, if possible, Von Miller. But
Von Miller's just signed tonight.
Yeah, he got signed.
He just signed.
Yeah, he signed today because I believe his legal troubles have gone away, so they could sign him now.
That's fine.
Nice.
Good for them.
Okay, fine. That's the franchise tag basics out of the way. We will start with Tampa Bay, so effectively the NFC South, and we'll have a quick run through the 4 teams in that division and work our way through the rest of the NFC. Just having a look at what the teams are, what they are doing, what they have done, and possibly what they should be doing in as concise a manner as possible. So the key thing with Tampa Bay is Brady, as Gary alluded to, has restructured his deal. They're in win now mode.
Rename them as Tampa Brady Buccaneers. Is that what you just renamed them as in that intro?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey,
Tampa Brady Buccaneers.
They just lost him win the Super Bowl.
He nearly lost the fucking trophy being a dick during the celebrations.
He did. Did he not throw it from one boat to another? Is that?
Yeah, whilst off his face.
He was hammered.
Fair play to him. I mean, why not? But yeah, so he's restructured his contract to allow them to spread some money around, which has meant effectively they've been able to keep everybody from the Super Bowl run. All right, maybe not Antonio Brown at the moment. He's not back. Maybe not Leonard Fournette at the moment. He's not back. But Levante David, 2-year extension, $25 million. Shaq Barrett. Yeah, so 4 years at $68 million. And again, that's one of those contracts you may not see all of that money, but it keeps the player happy and it keeps the team together. And it's win now, win now, win now. And then Gronk comes back for another year. They're not missing any pieces.
No. I think it'd be interesting to see what happens with Antonio Brown. I think he'll leave. I think he'll go. He's now kind of, I think he's probably redeemed himself and teams will feel that he's, a more sensible player. Whether he can be as good as he is and with Brady there to kind of look after him, who knows? The Shaq Barrett deal, I think, is incredible value. 4 years, $68 million, 36 guaranteed. For an edge rusher that good against quality opponents, I think other edge rushers in free agency are going to be looking at that going, you bastard, because you've now cost us money. Because every team's going to be looking at it and go, well, Shaq Barrett got 4 sacks in 2 games in the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship, and he only got 36 guaranteed. Yeah. So that kind of sets the market, and I think he's done a team-friendly deal, but, fair play to him. And, yeah, re-signing Levante David's huge. I think he'll see out that 2-year deal. Then they'll sign, I can't remember the other linebacker they got, the good guy.
Brilliant.
God, it's been too long.
White?
Yes, thank you, Devin White. Once he ends his rookie contract, Levante David will be out of there. They'll move on to someone else.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Antonio Brown. I think if he walks out from under the Brady halo, I think he falls apart again wherever he goes. So,
Titans just lost Corey Davis. I know we'll come on to it, but Corey Davis has gone to the Jets.
Went to the Jets.
That's right. He's gone to the Jets.
So you reckon that's a landing spot, yeah?
The Titans don't have much else, do they?
They really don't. We will come on to that. They have a very bare-looking cupboard at wide receiver all of a sudden. The Saints. Let's move on to the Saints. We'll move away from the champions onto the Saints. The key thing here is obviously Drew Brees has announced his retirement, and at the same time, Jameis has signed a 1-year, $5.5 million deal, and Taysom Hill has signed for 68 years for $147 billion, which is it's a ridiculous number for a player that still isn't convincing anyone he's a franchise quarterback. So I'm not entirely sold on what they've got. I'm thinking we're probably going to see more Jameis than Taysom, if I'm honest. What about out elsewhere? Because they were up against the cap.
Well, Jameis can earn $12.5 million with incentives. So it's not quite as bad a deal as it looks. Similar to Cam's, I think, really.
Yeah.
Look at the 2 deals. They've managed to re-sign Ty Montgomery, who did almost as little for them as he did for the Packers. So, they've not done much else, have they? James Hurst.
They've lost Henderson. He's
tagged.
gone. Yeah, Saunders he's being released. Jenkins hasn't been re-signed. Jared Cook hasn't been re-signed yet, if at all. I'm not sure what their cap number is. I don't have those up in front of me, but
they've still got, according to Over the Cap, they're still $12 million over.
Yeah, so that's bearing in mind every team has to be under the cap. Is it by about this time tomorrow?
This time tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's a lot of restructuring you've got to do in 24 hours, or get the players.
For Taysom Hill, we've just mentioned his restructure has cleared $7.5 million from the cap.
Yeah,
but it is still a 4-year, $140 million extension for a gadget player.
Yeah.
Although for the Saints, each year is voidable. So if he doesn't prove to be the next Steve Young, money as he's been promised to be, they can get rid.
They cut Janoris Jenkins as well. It's a good cornerback, and I think Marcus Lattimore's going to need paying soon as well. So
they're in trouble.
They're in trouble.
3 years of pain.
I think the Saints will be one of these teams in the run for one of these top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the draft. I don't think they think the answer is on the roster now. So if you can get a cheap rookie.
I don't know, Jameis, you need to see Jameis play. I don't really understand why you would pick Jameis up and then play Taysom Hill, who's definitely not a quarterback. So, you had Jameis last year. Breeze was injured. Taysom didn't do huge amounts wrong, but he's not a quarterback. So why not play the quarterback? and see what you've got. Like, it's madness. And then you've got to pay him again anyway. So,
Yeah.
Well, it'd be interesting. Peyton's come out today, hasn't he, or today or yesterday, and said, it's clearly a competition. We've told both guys it's a competition for the starting spot.
I think
But I've heard some people say that they might even, you get a quarter, then you get a... Because Peyton's mental, isn't he? He just doesn't...
If anyone
he's a bit
could
off
make
the
it
wall.
work, it would be him. But they're already dicing with no Drew Brees to fall back on. And I know he wasn't the same player the last 2 seasons, but at least you knew if he was on the field, it was a higher percentage of you winning than not. I don't know. I feel there's a lot of juggling, and I don't think this is the end of the quarterback story for this season in the Saints. I really feel you could see Jameis even traded away. If somebody's quarterback goes down, you're going to get like a Sam Bradford moment where he's suddenly out the door, or Taysom suddenly out the door and playing somewhere else. Just doesn't feel quite right and settled yet for me. Sticking in this division, Atlanta. So the Falcons, one of you told me Matt Ryan's just restructured his deal. I think that's to help them get under the cap. They're in salary cap purgatory there. They've got a list of players that they've either cut or not re-signed. Alex Mack, Allen, Gurley, Keanu Neal. Like their defense is not as bad as it looked at the start of last season, but pretty thin. And there's some key players they're losing. And then who are they going to play at running back? I think Brian Hill's been cut as well. So
yes.
Who does that leave you with? Ito Smith? Like,
it leaves you to pick someone up in the 3rd round of the draft, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And run them until they break.
Pretty much.
That's what you do. And then you go and pick up another veteran for like league minimum and you put them together. Just bring Frank Gore in to run like 20% of snaps.
Well,
and pick up a youngster. That's it.
He's currently unemployed.
We've got no money. Like, that's what you do, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, I don't know their cap number, but I know they were in serious trouble. Only a few weeks ago. So I should imagine
they're actually clear. They're $177,000 under the cap.
$177,000, so they can afford you at running back.
Yeah, pretty much.
Amazing. That's what they should do then. You get my vote.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, they've got a pretty high draft pick, 4th or 5th. I don't think now they've restructured Matt Ryan. I don't think they're going to spend that on a quarterback. I think that draft pick could be up for sale for a team that does want to come up, or they can use it on a quality offensive lineman or there's some brilliant wide receivers in the draft. So, but there's a lot of holes to fill in that roster. Like you said, there's a lot of people they haven't signed. They have re-signed Young-Hae Koo, the kicker, though. So that's something.
He might have been one of their best players last year, strangely
He was
enough.
probably one of the most important players they had,
I think Matt Ryan is just young enough to see this rebuild through, and it may be a sensible move to keep him there.
Yeah.
I didn't like the idea of them trading him away. I don't think you're going to just find the next Matt Ryan in this draft. You're not drafting number 1. You're probably not going to find someone as good. That's my opinion. The Panthers, then. Let's get Carolina out of the way.
They've not done anything.
They've done nothing. There's a lot of players that are just hanging around. Russell Okong, Kawan Short, Curtis Samuel, safety valve. I put on there in case Paul was involved this evening. They just haven't done anything at all. It's all about the draft for Carolina, right?
Yeah.
It's either all about the draft or it's all about Deshaun Watson. Because they're one of the teams that have been. There's been a lot of buzz about them actually making a real big play for Deshaun Watson. They're in a decent enough draft position where they can give the Texans a decent pick, and they've got the draft capital. One player I'm surprised they haven't brought back is Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
Who I think is a really underrated wide receiver for them. He's a typical gadget player because he's not had a lot of production. Yeah, exactly. He's not had a lot of production, so he's not going to get paid like a number 1 wide receiver. No. So I think that they could make a play to try and get him back. They've got $28 million left to spend, so there's money there for them to do it. Either that, or they're just biding their time. They're letting the top players, or they're letting other teams set the market, and they could pick off a couple of veteran players on the cheap.
I'm sure they will, but I just think if they're not sold on Teddy, it's a big gamble waiting to see what happens with Deshaun Watson. I'm not sure Deshaun Watson would want to go to Carolina. What are you surrounding him with that's better than?
I think he goes there.
I think he'd go there. You got Christian McCaffrey. You got DJ Moore's a good wide receiver. The offensive coordinator Joe Brady is like the next offensive genius in the league, so that could appeal to him as well.
Good ownership.
It's not Houston.
It's not Houston.
What about the O-line though? Because his biggest complaint has been A, I haven't been involved in decisions, and B, I get crushed every week.
Yeah, I mean, it's still better.
If you've got Deshaun Watson, you draft an O-lineman, don't you?
Yeah,
they pick what, 9, 8, 9, something like
that. Eight. Yeah.
There you go.
But what makes you think they're going to have any draft picks? They're going to have to give up the world to get him.
Yeah, I mean
that's the problem.
Yeah,
that is the problem. I understand it's a balancing act, but I'm just not sure that they've got enough. And I don't think the Texans would want Teddy, because whoever they trade with, they're going to want a quarterback in case they don't get what they need out of the draft. And I don't think they'd want Teddy. But I think they're in a bit of purgatory, if I'm honest, Panthers. And I hope they don't run out of steam, because I really like what Matt Rule was doing last year. Right. Chicago Bears. So NFC North. Let's go on to the Bears. Currently don't have a quarterback. Trubisky is
Nick Foles.
They're also... No,
Nick Foles? Like I said, they don't have a quarterback.
They're also bottom of the league in terms of how much cap they got, or how much cap they're over. They're still $20.3 million over.
That's because they're paying for two supposedly first-team quarterbacks, isn't it?
They got. I mean, Mitch
the
Trubisky's
Eagles
now
had the
a free
same
agent.
problem before.
Yeah, Trubisky's now a free agent. Apparently, they're trying to shop Anthony Miller, and apparently they're trying to make a massive go for Russell Wilson. Although I'm not really sure how they're going to pay him. I genuinely think if you want Russell Wilson, you're probably going to have to give Khalil Mack to the Seahawks.
Yeah, but in all fairness, if that was my only option, I'd probably do that. Khalil Mack was impactful in his first season. He's not been great there ever since, really, has he?
No, I mean he's been above average, but not.
If
he's
the
not.
Seahawks said we want Khalil Mack and your next 2 first-round picks, I would give that for Russell Wilson in Chicago.
Yep. It'd probably convince other players to say you'd probably be able to keep Allen Robinson at that point.
Of course you would. Keep Allen Robinson, no problem. Like you said, their biggest problem is they've got no money. No. And Russell Wilson is worth money. This is the issue. That it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure what the market will be for Trubisky. He'll go somewhere and be a backup, but
yeah, he's a backup at best.
It feels like a career never fully.
Broncos.
Yeah,
they need another shit quarterback to go and sit on the roster, don't they?
Would you take Trubisky over Drew Lock?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you probably would. Yeah,
I think you probably would. Yeah.
Right, the Lions. Talking about teams that seem to be going nowhere always. They obviously they've lost Matt Stafford, and they've gained Jared Goff. It feels very much like Goff is just there to play quarterback till they sort the rest of the team out, and then they'll bin him on. He's got no one to throw to, though. No, so Galladay's a free agent. Marvin Jones hasn't been re-signed.
Amendola's a free agent.
Amendola's a free agent. It just
Mohamed
feels like...
Sanu's a free agent.
Hold up. So Galladay, who's very good but is very injured, hasn't re-signed.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And who else did you say? There's
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones again.
He's
quite injury prone. Amendola, never the same player. You call him playoff Amendola. The Lions will never be in the playoffs, so he's useless to them.
Agreed.
So he hasn't got those people he wouldn't want to throw to anyway. Like,
oh, come on now! You want to throw to Galladay?
What are the Rams? If he's there, you know,
you'd want to throw to someone.
He's got a great tight end.
He's got Geronimo Allison. That's all he needs.
There you go. But what have they got for the draft?
He's been sacrificed to me.
They got quite a bit, didn't they, as well? And the guy, don't forget the guy that scouted Goff has also gone to the Lions.
Yeah.
So I think this idea he's just been hung out to dry on his, $100 million contracts is probably a little extreme. I think Goff's still going to be built around for a couple of years.
Yeah, but it's going to be 2 or 3 years of agony. The Lions right now are my pick to finish last next year. Like they'll be the number one pick.
I can see that happening.
It's a threadbare team. They've let Danny Shelton go today. Everson Griffin. There's nothing there. It's terrible. Their best signing so far is Tyrell Williams.
That's true. Goff was an average quarterback with a good offensive-minded coach and good receivers and a good offensive line for a while. And yeah, the Rams got to the Super Bowl, but it was never because of Jared Goff. And he's been distinctly average over the last couple of years. And like, what's he going to be like in Detroit, where the offensive line is average? They literally have no wide receivers. The running game has never done that well. Not since Barry Sanders retired as the running game being any good in Detroit. And he's got a tight end who was okay last year.
Who is their lead running back going into this season?
I don't know.
DeAndre Swift
or Kerryon Johnson?
Swift. It's Swift, isn't it?
I hope it's Swift.
Well, we don't know.
He had a half decent year, didn't he?
They have brought in Anthony Lynn as their offensive coordinator, who is a running back whisperer. He can make average running backs look amazing. So
that is what they'll need to do.
I don't think the Lions will do anything. I just think they got draft picks as well as Goff, didn't they? Like, am I going crazy here? Like they did.
They got not until next year. They've only got one. They got 2 firsts next year and 2 firsts the following year.
So this year's going to be shit, and next year's full of opportunity.
Yeah. I think it's a shame for Goff. He's a confidence player. When his confidence is high, he's good enough. But it just isn't going to be this season. This is going to be a bad team. Right. Yeah. Green Bay Packers. They've done the right thing, in my opinion, signing Aaron Jones to a 4-year deal.
Hold up. The Lions signed Tyrell Williams.
I did say that.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's all right.
Great. You've successfully replaced Danny Amendola. Well done.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me if I don't backflip across the room. Anyway.
Tyrell Williams is as good as Marvin Jones some days. Because Marvin Jones is hot and cold. So they're in no...
I'd take Marvin Jones 100% of the time over Tyrell Williams. 100% of the time. Maybe they'll re-sign as well.
But yeah, Packers. Anyway, Packers.
I do not want to talk about the Lions anymore. It brings me down. So, Aaron Jones, 4 years, $48 million. I mean, the point here with the Packers is you've got 2 or 3 years of Aaron Rodgers left. And well done for throwing whatever you just threw and making loads of noise on a podcast.
Sorry.
And I think management has listened to Aaron Rodgers saying, I want these players back. Because they re-signed Tonyan, didn't they, to a 1-year extension as well. The only player that they lost is the centre, Corey Linsley, which is actually quite a big deal because he'd been there a while and you do not want to be changing centres unnecessarily. But you can't keep everybody. And I think they've kept 2 of Aaron Rodgers' favourite weapons, if I'm honest. I think they've done a good job so far.
Alan Lazard is the other one who is currently a free agent, and I thought he was a decent little player last year. I'm surprised that they've not brought him back. I think he's definitely a good number 2 receiver alongside Devontae Adams. But apart from that,
he's fine. But if he wants money, then get rid of him because you can you can pick up any dross like that from the draft or free agents.
I don't think Alan Lazard is going into the market saying I want number 1 receiver money because he's never been that.
No.
But he's
just described him as dross.
Yeah, it's good. Packers are $5.6 million over the cap at the moment.
Yeah, so that's a one restructure of a half decent player away, and you're not in trouble anymore.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind these teams have to make space for their draftees as well, don't they? You can't be like going into the draft on the cap. You actually have to have some space.
You have to have some money to pay your draft picks. Yep.
Right, moving on from the Packers to the Vikings. So Minnesota, they haven't done a lot, if I'm honest. They signed Tomlinson to a 2-year, $22 million deal from the Giants. Other than that, not a lot happening in Minnesota. Very quiet.
I cut Carl Rudolph, who's been there a long time.
But John and I had this conversation. What's he done the last?
He hasn't done it. Yeah, he hasn't done anything. And I think there's another tight end there, Smith from Alabama, who has looked like a better player last year than he was in his first year. So sensible cut.
It just seems like the Vikings are painfully stagnant at the moment. Maybe it's looking to the draft, but do we know that Kirk Cousins is definitely their quarterback next season?
Yeah, he is.
Definitely.
Yeah, he will be. Nailed on.
Then it's another year of misery for the Vikings.
Yeah.
Carl Rudolph, though, before we move on to him, he's younger than I thought. He always
32.
looks so old and beaten up, but he's still got like 2 or 3 years left in him, isn't he?
He'll get picked
I
up.
sort of expected him to be one of the people that would end up in New England.
Yeah,
I'd quite like to see him at the Niners. You know, Kittle obviously spent a bit of time injured last year. It would be quite nice to see. You know,
I don't think he's fast enough.
He's certainly a decent number 2 type.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
If
number 2
If he's playing 30% of your snaps, that's good. And no problem there. They've
Red
also
zone sometimes an issue for us. So.
They've also allowed Dan Bailey to walk away, the kicker. Now, he's not by any means the most consistent, but he's not been terrible for the Vikings. And so they might be on the look for another kicker again, which has been a notoriously tricky thing for teams to fill. They kick a lot of field goals with Kirk Cousins in the team, and that's a big deal, I think. So keep an eye on what they do from there. Right, moving on to, let's take the East next. So the Dallas Cowboys and the re-signing of Dak. What do we think? We've been away while that happened. Dak Prescott, 4 years, $160 million. It's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Gary?
Should have done it 2 years ago before he went on his first franchise tag.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think he's a top 10 quarterback right now. Look how badly they struggled without him.
Yeah, I hear all that. And I agree to a large part.
Yeah.
I suppose the only thing is the injury, isn't it? You know, we've seen how many players never be the same. And, you know, he didn't get paid when he should have got paid. That doesn't necessarily mean you should confound a bad decision with another bad decision. So wait and see. I think, you know, it could turn out that he's recovered fine and he's going to be great. But, you know, Carson Wentz, you know, everyone said he was going to be the next Brady, the next big thing. And he's just lost his starting job and been shipped out for Jalen Hurts, who's proved nothing yet. So we don't know what Dak's going to come back and do. And I know it wasn't his back, you know, which is involved in every movement as a quarterback. But you know, it's hard to play football, isn't it? You know, these guys get hit all the time. You know, it's a physical game, and you just don't know. And that's a lot of money to put on someone that you're not sure about. And it's a lot guaranteed as well.
It is a lot guaranteed.
It's a hell of a lot guaranteed. I think everything you've just said is justified. I also think the Cowboys didn't have any choice because look how bad they were without him. So I think everything you've said is correct, but they backed themselves into a corner. While we're talking about the Cowboys, just come up on my feed here, Andy Dalton signing a 1 year, $10 million deal with the Bears. Go on, you Bears. Signing Andy Dalton.
There's your starting quarterback. They're also
going
to cut Nick Foles, presumably.
Well, everyone should always cut Nick Foles. He's fucking shit.
That's the title of this episode right there, John. Note that down. Everyone should cut Nick Foles.
Everyone should cut Nick Foles.
Yeah, currently Andy Dalton will be the starting quarterback for the Bears. Now, I think that's an upgrade, to be fair.
Yeah, so do I. By far.
So fair enough.
Also, actually, what we were talking about earlier, the Jaguars have signed Marvin Jones. We're expected to sign Marvin Jones, yeah.
Go on, Marvin Jones.
So
I think it's a decent enough signing for them. And Trevor Lawrence gets a lot of yards after catch. That's what they're going to need. That's good. Okay, so that's good breaking news. I like that. We can deliver there. Before we move on from Dallas, Sean Lee, Andy Dalton's just gone, and Aldon Smith were the three other names I had as free agents. I think Sean Lee's time might be over there. He's just always.
You can't pay. Yeah, I mean it's.
I love him as a player for 2 games a season.
Great, yeah, but he's just injured all the time.
And then Aldon Smith as well. So the defence looks like it would need rebuilding, and that defence struggled last year at times, mightily.
Yeah, I thought they'd give Aldon Smith another shot. I thought they'd give him at least another year deal because he was all right last year.
They may well do that, but they haven't done it yet. I suppose what I'm getting at here is that their offense is pretty much set. They've got 3 of the best wide receivers.
Well, yeah. I think you're set in the skill positions. I think there's work to do in the offensive line. Like Cam Irving's gone. Yeah. It's actually gone to Carolina. That's a good signing for them. And you know, they've in recent years that offensive line has been decimated by long-term injuries.
Ever since Frederick's got injured.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that there's work to do on the offensive line because, to the point around Dak's injury, you have to protect him next year. You can't have him getting hit 50, 60 times.
No. Very true. I think then if the O-line is your point of concern, my point of concern would be the back end of the defense. That's where their draft is going to have to be concentrated then, in those two places for me, because there's no point protecting him if your team's getting blown out by 25 points a week. And they did get hammered at times last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Giants, John, happy with the Williams signing today?
Yeah.
I think
he was initially on the tag, wasn't he? But we've signed him to a deal now. 3 years, 60 something million.
63
Great.
million, yeah.
He's finally lived up to his promise at last year at the Giants. So,
And you signed Devontae Booker.
I mean,
Well, so
great.
What do we think about Kevin Zeitler moving on to the Ravens? Because I thought he played well for you.
Yeah.
He played well, but we've got Solder back this year.
Yeah, he's come back. So do you think it's just a case of got to move some money on?
Unfortunately, I think Zeitler's a victim of the cap, because I think if we wouldn't have been the drop, we could have kept him, but we had to get rid of him. It's just a shame.
Did I see that you guys had signed John Ross, or did I imagine?
Yes. No, that's true. That is true.
Excellent work. Because there's a player that you really love. He's never let you down.
One of your favourites, isn't it?
I bloody love John Ross. So I'm a John Ross trooper for the first 2 weeks of every season.
He's only good on Madden, where he's really quick.
He's not even good on Madden. He's only good in the combine.
Assumedly, John Ross comes in to replace Golden Tate, who won't be back.
Yeah.
I hope he gets the opportunity there. I always felt like the injuries have prevented him having the opportunity. And actually, he's probably still a half-decent player. Tate had lost all of his pace, so at least John Ross is fast. You've also
Tate
let Dion Lewis go.
Dion Lewis is great. I'm really sad to see him go.
I think you need to draft another running back, because Saquon will probably get injured again.
Got Devontae Booker.
Yeah, like I said, need another running back.
No, I still think we need another running back, because even if Saquon isn't injured, he got injured because they kept using it.
He is your offense.
Someone to give him a breather every so often would be quite nice.
Still, it should be a step forward this year if you can keep him on the field. That's what I think, anyway.
More breaking news: the Saints have traded defensive lineman Malcolm Brown to the Jaguars, so they're starting to clear some of that salary cap as well.
Oh, I like this breaking news stuff. So,
literally keep your eye on Twitter.
Philadelphia Eagles. I don't have Twitter. Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, they've shipped Wentz out to Indianapolis. Jalen Mills has moved on as well, which we'll come to shortly. And they have got a host of players that they're either cut or will be cut. So Deshaun Jackson, Jason Peters, Nicole Roby-Coleman, Vinnie Curry.
Nate Sudfeld.
They've got no room, right? This is the Eagles' problem we saw coming for a long time. The salary cap hell.
Just short of $18 million over the salary cap. So there's still more to come.
And this is the thing, they're going to be paying for Wentz. What's the cap hit for Wentz? Was something ridiculous.
Something like 36 million.
39 million.
39 million.
33.8.
Yeah. I think this might be your contender for number one pick next year.
They're going to be pretty close. This is going to be a disaster, and they've signed nobody.
Well, they can't sign anyone. They're desperate for cornerbacks. They're desperate for wide receivers. They're probably going to be desperate for offensive linemen. They've got Jalen Hurts at quarterback, who had 2 good games to start off with and then fell off a cliff.
You've got half decent defensive line. That's it. That's
half
it,
decent, yeah.
I mean, I feel
just
bad.
Don't understand what's happening there.
I don't feel bad. I feel great.
I didn't enjoy their fans at all, so it just makes me chuckle to think how bad. Imagine if 3 years ago you were being touted as being a dynasty because you won the Super Bowl. And then this is your team.
I just don't get why Harry Roseman kept his job, but the coach got sacked. It's like, this is the worst put together roster
it's
probably in the NFL at the moment. Because it's not a roster.
No.
It's just a collection of players. It's who was a team? We were reviewing a team a couple of years back. Oh, the Bengals. And I was looking through him going, I can't see anyone that's decent on this side. And that's where the Eagles are going to be when we do the previews for the season.
If you're asked to name their best 4 players, right now, you'd say
Fletcher Cox,
Graham,
and then
Johnson.
you'd say, Jason Peters.
No, he's a free agent.
No, but this is what I mean. You're looking at them going,
Miles Sanders.
And he's
Jason
39. Miles Sanders, the running back, is all right, yeah.
Slay.
Don't steal that off me just because no one let me talk.
No, I was
that was
agreeing
mine.
with you. For the record, Gary said Miles Sanders.
He did. My point is that probably 2 of their best 4 players are about to be released. And it's like they've got nothing and no room to do it. They're going to be bad and I'm going to enjoy it. Right, football team. They're sticking with the football team tag for another year because they're too lazy to find another name. They don't want to offend anyone. They've signed Ryan Fitzpatrick to a 1-year, $10 million deal.
How happy are you?
Go.
I am both delighted and upset because I kind of thought he was coming to us, and a little bit of me was like sort of looking forward to it. But fair play to Fitz. Is this the indication that they either expect to draft or that they expect Tyler Heineke to get the opportunity to play, but they're not sure he's the answer?
Draft.
Yeah, I think draft.
I don't know. They're going to have to trade up to get a quarterback. Like, I can see if the idea is to draft one of the quarterbacks in the first round, they're going to have to get into the top 10.
Are the Niners going to draft Trey Lawrence though,
if they can get into the top 10? I seriously think 5 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 10 this year.
Because I know a lot of people are saying Niners are going to take Lance, but do we actually want him? Is he good enough?
Well, we're going to come on to that in another episode. But like generally, if they want to get one of the top 5 quarterbacks, they've got to get into the top 10. Because I think like Mac Jones was considered the 5th best, and his stock is rising after the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sold on Mac Jones. I think
I'm not either.
Might pass over him.
I'm just saying that's where he's now being put. If you look at a lot of mock drafts, we listen to a lot of the experts, they're saying this could really happen. We could be seeing 5 quarterbacks in the top 10.
Is this another good reason then for signing Fitzmagic and saying, right, we may not be able to get who we want, rather than overstretch, we'll just get a guy in that we know can play for $10 million.
So. Yeah, it's a good deal.
The problem then for Washington is they've done nothing else, and they don't have a good team.
That is a problem.
Did you see what I mean? Like, there's not a lot else going on this team. They crept into the playoffs because the division is so terrible, not because they're any good. Obviously, they've let Alex Smith go. I'm not sure you see him anywhere else.
No.
It's kind of a bit of a damp squib ending. Yeah, maybe if somebody gets injured.
I don't think that. I think some team may not, give him a backup role, but yeah, I don't. Well, this is not the end of Alex Smith.
Should I tell you who I think should give him a backup role, and then you can all laugh at me? But I'm going to say the Jags. You're bringing in Trevor Lawrence. Give him a mentor. Give him somebody who can come in if he's having a bad game.
That's because as well, Alex Smith has previously worked with Urban Meyer.
Has he really?
So,
I didn't even put that together. I think that would be a great shout. And if I was the Jags, I'd be saying to Alex Smith, "What do you want? A 2-year deal to be the backup to our new young quarterback that's coming in." I think that'd be fantastic for everybody. But whether or not he sees himself as a backup, I don't know. But I think his days as a guaranteed starter are just completely done. It's just unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah, there's still. I mean, the football team have also lost Ryan Kerrigan. Good defensive end. They've got a lot of strength on that defensive line. So it's not a massive issue, but the second level, the linebacker level, Reuben Foster's not there, Thomas Davis isn't there. They were never great players in the first place. That needs to be refilled. The cornerback situation isn't great. It's not as bad as what it is in Philadelphia, but it's not great still. So, and I still don't think that. I think they need another 2 receivers of some sort.
Yeah,
a lot of work to do.
It's
still a rebuild.
They have space, unlike other teams. They have about $37 million.
Right, so that leaves us with the West to cover, as I've been rightly informed in a quick break there where I definitely didn't cock up. Arizona Cardinals. Look, they've done the great thing and signed JJ Watt, 2 years, $28 million deal. I didn't see that coming, but
I think anyone did.
he might now find that he's not double teamed for the first time in forever, and you might actually get a really high amount of production out of him if he's not the primary focus of the opposing offensive line. I think this is sneakily one of the best things that Arizona could have done. I'm really pleased for them and him. I think this could be excellent for everybody.
Yep, I can agree more. I think it's, everyone, well, not everyone, some people criticise JJ Watt because he kind of came out and said, I want to go to contenders. Like, oh, is Arizona a contender? I think they are. I think with this signing and with Kyler Murray still improving, yeah, okay, they've got to restock a little bit of wide receiver because I can't see Fitzgerald coming back again.
No.
They need another running back. But other than that,
is Kenyon Drake definitely not coming back?
Well, he's not back yet. So
I think they can still do. I think they can do better. Kenyon Drake's fine, but you can
I
find
agree as well.
He flattered
big fine.
When he first arrived in that half season. He did okay, didn't he?
It was
And
games
then
where
in
he
full
was
season,
decent.
he
last
wasn't
year.
that good.
Yeah,
He was
were,
average.
like I say,
League average.
I think
Got
you
1,000 yard season, did he? 900,000 yards.
But you can pick
900,000 yards?
Well, something like
hell.
that. It was in that ballpark. Is my point.
you
You're
can pick
putting
up
two
a
and
decent.
two together and getting 900,000.
They can draft a running back. I think giving Kyler some weapons is definitely what's going to take this team forward. I think the defense is now good enough. So it's just put the weapons around Kyler.
They need to. I think they need to replace Patrick Peterson, and he's not coming back.
Right.
But they've got. I mean, where are they in the old list? They've got money.
It's not a problem for them. They can.
There we go.
Of course, they have
14
rookie
million.
quarterback.
Yeah, rookie quarterback.
They've got money. They can make. I'm surprised they haven't made one or two more signings, but maybe. And I'll just throw this out there. This is one of the destinations for Kenny Golladay for me. Imagine the difference he makes to Kyler Murray. It'd be incredible. I think they should definitely be in on that. Okay, let's do the Seahawks because we know somebody on this podcast loves the Seahawks. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson wants out, right?
Yeah.
Now, Russell Wilson signed a 4-year, $77 billion extension last season, or maybe the season before. I don't have any problem with the Seahawks holding him to that contract.
I don't either.
But I do have a problem with he's made it very clear what the issue is, and they don't seem to be doing anything about it.
I think he's been quiet about this for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
And I think he's probably just had enough. He's like, okay, I'm now getting hit all the time. Sort it out. And I think this is a bit of a power play to say, I'm going to keep, unless you sort out this offensive line and then you sort out the offense and we play the offense that I want to play, which, at the beginning of the year, they were absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
Much to my chagrin. But, suddenly he's getting hit like 5, 6, 7 times a game. And it's like, well, no wonder he can't do it. You've got to protect your quarterback. He's a brilliant quarterback. It's amazing he's not missed any game time.
Who are the available O linemen that they could go out and sign? That's the problem. There's not a lot of space. I don't know what their salary cap is. Again, I don't have those numbers.
17 million.
So that's one good or maybe 1.5 good offensive linemen. It's not enough. They need a complete restructure on that O line. So then they're relying on the draft, and you don't really know what you're getting. That's probably not going to keep Russell happy.
No. There are a few offensive linemen in the draft they could take even later on in the first round. But you're right. Aside from Trent Williams, who is going to stay at the 49ers, there isn't really many other. And obviously, Joe Tooney's been signed. They could trade for Orlando Brown, who's making moves to try and get out of Baltimore. But other than that, it's like,
where does Wilson go though? Andy Dalton's at the Bears. He's not going to go to the. He's not going to go to the Texans and go through
just
the
a
same
mad
thing,
sentence
is he?
to say.
So he's not going to go to the Texans. He's not going to go to the Panthers.
There were 4 teams that he wanted to go to, wasn't there? The Bears, the Saints, and obviously 2 others. No, I can't think of him. But he's not going to the Saints because A, they can't afford him, and B, they've just re-signed 2 quarterbacks. Like you say, he's not going to the Bears. Like who really? Oh, the Raiders were another one. Well, that's going to cost the Raiders Derek Carr and probably their first round pick. Do they want to do that? Probably not.
Derek Carr'd fit in the scheme at Seattle quite well, though.
Probably would, yeah.
I out of all the moves, I actually think that one is one of the more feasible. I think that Gruden may
because
well.
Kiara can go to work in one of the hotels, can't she? And put one. No, well, in a residency, not like a maid or something.
No one said that.
What are you trying to say?
It was Griff's face.
I think if you leave my face alone, I think if I'm honest, deep down, Russell Wilson doesn't want to leave. He just wants the club to change.
Yeah.
And Jim and I have had this conversation.
I think he wants to leave. I think he definitely wants to leave.
I don't think
the
he
Cowboys
does.
was the other team he wanted to join.
Cowboys.
He wants Pete Carroll to leave.
I think he wants Pete Carroll to leave, and I think if I was running Seattle, I'd get rid of Pete Carroll instead of Russell Wilson.
You've got Pete Carroll and his sons there. You're more likely for Pete Carroll to die than for him to leave Seattle.
Yeah, but that's the problem. He has too much power, and that is what Russell Wilson.
It's not going to change.
There's nobody in charge, is there, in Seattle?
No,
there is no ownership.
That will come to a head. It will come to a head.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he definitely wants out, but I think he might get out. But I think really he'd like to stay. He just wants them to be a better team.
Yeah. Going through the list of free agents, Mitchell Schwartz, the tackle for the Chiefs, is the next best. Rodney Hudson, who got released today by the Vegas Raiders, a centre is probably an option. Eric Fisher, although he has an ACL tear towards the end of the season last year, so he's probably going to be out until not next season, the season after. He could be picked up by someone, but he's not playing next season.
Okay. So really, we think the Seahawks might be troubled this season because if you look at who they've not re-signed as well, you got Fuller, Dunlap, Wright, Irvin, Chris Carson, who apparently is talking to loads of teams.
Carlos Hyde's gone.
Yeah, Carlos Hyde's gone. Both Griffin brothers. Yeah. One's gone to Jacksonville.
Jaguars. Carlos Hyde's gone to Jacksonville as well.
Yeah.
So not a lot going on AFC. Of positive note for Seattle. The Rams. Another team whose cap hell begins now.
Continues.
They've managed to keep Floyd, 4-year, $64 million deal, but they've already lost John Johnson, which actually I think is a bigger loss than many people say. He is one of those players that can do it all in the secondary.
Yeah, brilliant sight. I mean, he's gone to Cleveland. Great sight.
He's not going to be there. And then they're going to lose the second of their tight ends, Everett. He's going to go. Blake Bortles is a casualty. I mean...
what they've said is, Goff, our failings are all on you.
Yeah.
And we're prepared to just swap you for another quarterback, lose a load of players and a load of draft picks because we think it was that much your fault.
Yeah. Pretty much.
They must do, because that's what they've done.
They've basically said, Matt Stafford, come and use the weapons that Goff had and show us that we can win 3 or 4 more games with you. Do you know what? I don't actually disagree entirely with that because I think they probably will win more games more easily with Matt Stafford.
I think they will as well.
So maybe it turns out to be the right move, but it's a gamble. It's a big gamble.
Yeah, they've still got most of the offense. I think they're going to, Andrew Whitworth is probably going to need replacing, and that's a big replacement to try and do. But I feel like they will win more games next year than they did last year.
I think you're absolutely right. And that leaves us with your 49ers. Jim and Gary, take it away.
I really like what they've done so far. Like Kendrick Bourne's gone. Okay, he's an all right receiver, but he's not. We've got top two receivers that are being better. I really like the signing of Samson Ebukam from the LA Rams. I think he's a good gadget player. They've restructured D Ford's contract, so they've now got depth on the edge rush. They've re-signed Jason Verrett, quality cornerback, had a good comeback year. Mm-hmm. If they can re-sign Trent Williams, I'll be done. I'll be happy. And we're just going to the draft.
What about the list of players that you've seen walk away? So Sherman, Thomas, Tart, Coleman, McKinnon, Beathard, Mullins. They're all on the cut list.
I think the only one that is sad to see go is Tart, who is a talent.
Yeah. Not Solomon Thomas? Not bothered?
Well, he's been injured a lot, hasn't he? And I think there was still talks he might get brought back, wasn't there?
I think he will come back. But I think they're going to let him try free agency first and then try and bring him back.
He's a talent, Thomas, but I suppose for me, again, I think Jim aligns with John Lynch and is defense. For me, I understand all the work they've done, but I do find it a little uninspiring. I'm not sure how it's addressed some of the issues from last year. We manoeuvre our defence to keep it strong and to keep the cost of that defence down each year. Shanahan's got a great offensive mind, but we don't get enough pieces to have dual threat. I still don't think the air game's good enough. And Brandon Ayuk was great at the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Kittle will come back from injury, but it still just feels like if we're not set at quarterback and we're still missing a couple of bits at wide receiver, still
I don't
I
think
don't
we
think
are
we're
missing.
missing anything at wide receiver.
No,
I think
I don't think-
Debo and Ayuk, I think that's really good. I think Kittle is now the best tight
Yeah.
end. I think Garoppolo is your problem.
Yeah,
What do
I
you
think
do?
the quarterback is the biggest problem, and I don't know what we do, to be honest with you.
Well, if you're losing Mullins and Beathard, which it looks like you are, do you just clean the whole quarterback room out? Because
I think
don't
Trey
know if you
Lance
can.
is going to get picked. I think we're going to take him.
I'm not
Wouldn't be
sure.
terrible.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure he
Sha-
comes in and is immediately better than any of the three you've had on your roster.
Behind Jimmy for 6 games before Jimmy gets injured,
Yeah.
then put him in, and I think that's what Shanahan's kind of going with. I think he almost wants a young quarterback who he can mould.
He's never had a young quarterback. He's never
He hasn't,
had
no.
So I don't know if that is what he wants.
Cousins was quite young at the
but he had a
football
couple.
team.
But he had a couple of years sitting behind RG3 to learn the system. I think the system's too complicated for Trey Lance to learn in season 1. So I think, if they do take a quarterback, I think they're keeping Jimmy. Much to my hatred.
I'm so relieved.
Yeah, but
I wonder
we'll
whether my final thought on the Niners is whether it would be a good landing spot for Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that's the other option.
I think if I was your coach, I'd be looking at Sam Darnold thinking I can get more out of that.
Well, we've said it a few times, haven't we? And for me, if I could take Darnold and then either get some value for our draft pick, or take another edge rusher, then
It'd be an
that probably
improvement.
makes us.
It'd be an improvement to your team all round.